What if you could turn a technical, dry landscape plan into a rich, stylized presentation in a fraction of the time? With a built-in block library and material library, you can move from technical to visual faster than ever, and even create a design detail, customizable library instead of starting from scratch for each project. Every landscape project has its own site conditions and client vision, but your workflow doesn't have to start from scratch each time. With a ready-to-use CAD block library, a built-in material library, and AI to support your design decisions, you can move from concept to convincing client-ready presentation much faster. In this tutorial, I'll walk you through a complete landscape design process from start to finish, showing you how to use these plug-and-play planting blocks, hardscape modules, and material palettes to quickly build and refine your plan without redrawing the common elements. In Rayon Design, we'll import a site plan, develop the layout, apply the materials, and transform this technical drawing into a rich, stylized plan that clients and stakeholders can instantly understand. You can create a free account using the link below to follow along and access the same assets used in the walkthrough. Should we get started? No matter the scope, refreshing an existing outdoor space or shaping a brand new landscape, the starting point is usually the same: a site drawing. So let's get started by importing your DWG site plan. Okay, let's start by importing our DWG. So you can see my Rayon home screen here. It's a bit of a mess, I'll admit. Let's go to import, and then I'll go to my downloads folder and I can see my DWG there. I just press OK, and then it comes up with a number of these toggles. So make model public, import hidden layers, import empty layers, import blocks without instance. So I tend to leave these on. You can see the name of the DWG there, and I'll press import. This just takes a second to convert the model, and it will open up into a temporary space. So you can see there, we've got a building, so it's a sports area, and then we have the landscape area here. And the first thing I want to do is asking me to draw a line by clicking on 2 points to find a familiar element to make sure it's to scale. So let's just find a single doorway, for example, and I'll click here and here, and that's coming out at 0.88 meters. So 880 for a door, that sounds right. So we're going to press continue. So that really isn't just asking you how big it is, it's about you making sure that it is in meters or millimeters, so it gets it to the right scale. So we're going to press continue. That will then scale the model, and it will come into our model space in our new drawing, ready to work on. Okay, with the base drawing imported, let's start organizing the layout, defining those planting areas and hardscape elements, and finally building a cohesive mood board and a clear material direction. Okay, so now with the DWG imported, I want to do a couple of things just to clean up the drawing. So first of all, I'm going to go over to the layers tab, and I'm going to select all of my layers, and I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to call it import, and then I'm just going to nest, so literally by dragging and dropping into that layer, all of those layers inside. So then I know all my existing stuff is on one layer that I can adjust. If you have a look in there, I still have those sub layers, so I can still, adapt and change them if I wanted to. Then I'll just create a new layer, proposed. I just want to go back into those nested layers, and I want to turn off the hatches. So you can see there, the hatches are all on a layer. I just want to clean that drawing up, and now that's looking nice and clean. So then that at least gives us a little base to start from. So I can hide that, and I can even lock it to make sure that I don't start moving anything. So the next step is to start to think about our different types of finishes, our different layers, our different materials that we're going to put into the landscape. So let's start by creating some styles. So our style library is over here. So this is all the different line types, fill types, even wall types. They all live within the style library, even text and annotation styles. So we can use the original DWG, and we could just use the bucket tool to fill the different elements. So let's show you very quickly how to do that. So if I choose the bucket tool, which lives down here into our editing tools here, you can see that over here, bucket. I also have a shortcut, which is BB, which I tend to use all the time. I can just go around and start filling, different elements in. and then I can assign a fill to those, change the colors, change the hatches, and go from there. The problem with that is that these are just fills. They don't have those smart properties. The way that I like to do things, and I think the better way for you to do it, is for you to trace these elements with rayon walls, which allows then you to place zones, and those zones will be smart elements. So let's show you how to do that. So I want to go down to my wall tool. The wall tool is incredibly helpful in being able to set a thickness, add a fill, a stroke length, and then save that as a style. So for example, these wall elements are drawn at 300mm. So to create a new wall style, for example, and I want to say 0.3 meters, I'll do that as a red color for now. We'll save that and call that landscape. And then I can just go around, I'll select my wall, I'll make sure that this style is selected. I'll just show you quickly in the style tab. If we scroll down here, you'll see that wall style here, and I can edit it from there as well, which is really helpful. And then I can just very quickly go around and trace these different elements. Now, if I just click on once, it will have a straight. You'll see down here though, I can add an arc. So I could find this point, click, and then pull that out. Exactly the same thing with the next one. Find that point, pull it out and click, and then on to this next one. So you can see that I've just done it as red to show you, but in reality, I could go back in and I can change that white, my layers, and I can hide import layer, and I just have on my geometry. So let's quickly just finish that shape. Okay, and with that completed, let me just hide that, and then you can see that continuous shape. Now we can look at using the zone tool. So the zone tool sits below the wall tool down here. I click on that, and then it will read the inside area between a wall. I'll click on that and I'll show you what happens. So not only does it form a zone, it also forms a label. So it will tell you what area that element is. So the zone kind of sits as an element in its own right. The really great thing is that with that zone, you can change its fill. You can also have those areas feed into a spreadsheet and they will update. That's a really, really useful thing if you're looking at material quantities, for example. So for example, let's say this area has a flagstone finish, for example. So we can go in and we can fill it as a gradient, as a texture, as a hatch, or even a single image if we wanted to. So I'm going to go to texture, which is here, and let's have a look down our list, see if there's anything appropriate. So you can see we have a number of outdoor standard textures already set. Yeah, this stone paving looks good. You can see the scale of that, how it repeats. I can change the scale. So if I wanted it to be a larger format, I could say, actually, that's going to be a lot bigger. I can rotate it, for example. Let's give it a 25-degree rotation to break it up a little bit. I can even offset the pattern within that fill read. I can change the opacity, so I could knock that back slightly if I wanted to. I can even change the sort of tone, contrast, exposure of the image itself. So I could say actually wants to be a bit lighter, maybe reduce the contrast slightly, increase the saturation, and go from there. Now I've set that texture, and I just want to go into here, and I want to save it as a style. So you can see here, I'll just press Save Style, and we'll call that flagstones. And then if I just look over here, we've got our styles on here, and you can see flagstone paving. So if I put this style in a lot of different places, I could just go in and I could edit it in here, and I could say, oh, actually maybe 3 times is too big, change it to 2, and it updates everywhere, which is really, really powerful. So if you start setting your office standards or you change your mind later, it will update wherever that element is seen. Okay, so I've just spent a little bit more time tracing over those wall elements, and I'm just going to turn off my background so you can see it cleanly. So you can see the different thicknesses of walls that I've set. So I've got one style which is 300mm, one style that is 100mm, and one style that is 600 to show those different thicknesses, and they all live within my wall style tab. And then I can then go around and think about how I would fill those, so the materiality of those different elements. So we've got some key areas. So one will be grass. So I'll select my zone tool down here, and I want to select this area. It will automatically choose the style I chose previously, but I'll create a new style. I'll change this texture, scroll down, choose grass. Again, I can change the scale of that. That looks good. I can probably make it a bit lighter, maybe a bit less vibrant. Yeah, that looks good. And then I can save that as grass. I'll turn off the stroke. And then when I go to use the zone tool again down the bottom, I can make sure that my picker style is selected, and then I can go do it again. And the really, really useful thing that I love about using zones is that it gives you those areas. So there, any of those zones that I click on, it will give me the area, which is really helpful as well. Similarly, if we wanted to use our flagstones again, I could press on the zone tool. I could use my pick a style, and I can click there. Perfect. Say I wanted a rectilinear paving as well. I could click on zones, and I could attach that style, and I could find a new style, find something suitable. In this one, again, I don't really want 45 degrees, set that to 0. What do we think of the scale? Maybe they should be a bit bigger. So again, I could go into transform, set that to 3. I could even give it a bit of a filter, make it a bit darker, so it's a bit more of a sort of concretey tone. Yeah, I think that looks good. And then finally, maybe we need a gravel texture. So go again to zone. I'll select this one space. I'll remove that style, and I'll set a new one. Again, we scroll down. Let's go with this one. Go with this one. Again, I can change style, lighter, but less contrasty. And again, I'll save this as gravel, for example. And then when I want to fill in these other two, again, I just do pick a style. Done. Say, for example, I change my mind as well. Now that I've placed this style, I can click on it, just use the little eyedropper here, and I can swatch it back to match another of the styles. Perfect. The other element I just want to show you is in the style library. If we click on that, and I'll just scroll down, you can see those styles that I've created. So our flagstones, our gravel, our grass, and our paving. One thing I can do is add a style from the style library. So rather than drawing it in here, add a new style here. So you could add a new shape, a wall type, a text, or an annotation. And this is a really helpful way for you just to start setting up your office standards or your styles that you want to be able to share amongst your teams, amongst your projects. So I could set up a new shape style, which is what these fill elements are. It's this one, and I could call it timber decking, for example. I could add a fill, find a timber type there. Again, I could change the scale, exposure, and then if I wanted to draw a zone or a shape or whatever that was, let's just do a shape. As long as I've got that style selected, here it is. And if I go into here and say those boards look a bit too big, I could change the scale, and I could change the rotation. And like I said, that could be an office standard across, what you're doing. Next, we'll show you the block library. So I use the block library all the time. It is full of 10,000 more blocks, top, side, front views. Incredibly useful part of Rayon. And you can see here that it has everything you could ever want. So it basically splits everything into its library. So things from basic things, animals, bedroom accessories, chairs, dining room elements, garden accessories, hospitality, kitchen, laundry, anything you could want lives inside the Rayon block library. And if it doesn't, Rayon has an incredible tool, which is their AI block creator. So you can generate a block from an image. I'll show you that in a second. So with this landscape, obviously we're interested in things like planting or external features. So we can go into here and look at things like garden and farm accessories. So, we have things like pizza ovens, birdhouses, statues, sort of small elements within a garden. We also have obviously trees and vegetation. So we could go down to urban landscape, for example. We have trees. We have picnic tables, things you might need from bus stops to benches, hedge lines, trash bins, anything you can think of. The really good thing is that if I click on this element and just drag it in, it's very, very simple. So I've got a very simple tree outline. But interestingly, if I go to open, it provides me with a front and a side view as well. So there you have your top, your front and your side. So when you're drawing something in plan, that same block can be swapped out for the exact elevation or section element, and it matches. And that works for all of these different elements. So take this bench, for example, I can just drag it in. That sits as a top view, but I also have a side view and a front view. Yeah, you can see all of those things are aligning, they all match perfectly. Yeah, I just find it such a helpful element of Rayon to have all of those things already built in. The other really great thing about the block library is that it goes into depth with its pre-built elements. So if we look at vegetation, for example, it has different species of trees. So we have birch trees, palm trees, oaks, and again, these are good quality drawings, and they have those top and front and side views, which are perfect if you're drawing a plan or an elevation. So I could literally just start populating my drawing with these different types of trees just by dragging and dropping. Obviously I can scale them and the line weights update. I can even go in to the block itself and change the style. So I can go in and I can change the line weight, the style, the color, anything I like. Let's go into here and say, actually, maybe it wants to be a lighter tone, for example, and the solid color wants to be a bit warmer. And you'll notice, because that is a style, that affects all of those elements that I'm dragging in, so then everything matches. I can even start arranging things. So if I just right click, I can bring different things to different levels, which is perfect for sort of fine tuning what you're trying to show. Okay, so I've just spent some time populating my drawing with the vegetation that I want, and it's starting to look really good. So what happens if I want a block that the Rayon library doesn't have? Good question. So we want to jump into the AI chat. So the AI chat allows us to create our own block. So I can see down here into tools, Rayon has this generate product element, which is turn a product image or simple prompt into a CAD block. So let's click on there, add a file or a screenshot. So we'll go to files, and I've got this screenshot of a bench that I want to introduce, and I'll press send. So Rayon's going to be doing a couple of things here. So it's going to be removing the background, and it's going to be looking at that image of a bench and generating a top, a front and a side view, along with estimating the dimensions. So you can see there, it's starting to understand it, and very shortly it will give us a CAD block. Okay, you can see that there. So we have our front, we have our side, and our top view. And I can do a couple of things. So I can import the whole block family, so then that sits in my library, which I will do. And then I can just insert the plan view for now. So you can see that it's estimated the dimensions, it's introduced that curve, and I've got that block there, even called it bench. So I can go into here and I can change my line weights if I wanted to. I can even give these elements fill, for example. Again, that means that when I drag it onto my drawing, say, so I have it over here, it has a level of transparency, but gives itself a fill. That's perfect. And the really useful thing is that I could, say you have a set product that you use very, frequently. You could build that in Rayon, save that as your block element, and then share it with your team. So say you had that as a block, all you would need to do is go to share over here, and I can share my libraries. So just like I can share my style libraries, so all of those things from the grass, the paving, the flagstones, for example, all of those things I set up, I can also publish my blocks and share them. So I could make all the pieces of furniture that I wanted, make all those elements that I use regularly, and publish those and share them with my team as well. All of that streamlines your process. The other thing that I just want to show you is about sharing your details. So we can share styles, we can share blocks, but also I've got these standard details which are relevant to the landscape, things like edgings, things like tree pits and build-ups, drainage channels. So these are things that I might as a practice use over and over again. I can set these as a template. So if these have been drawn, I go around and I set up all of these. I can then, next to share, I've got libraries, and then I've got templates. So I could just toggle this on and publish everything in here as a template. With that, I can give access to members of my team. So if you have their email address, we can all set them up within Rayon and share them within there. And you can add those people as an editor or an admin to that template. And it's just the same with our styles and with our blocks. So you're basically setting all of your office standards, and that will make everything much, much more efficient. By now, you've seen how working with a plug and play library of CAD blocks and material styles can streamline your process and help create a clear drawing. With the core drawing process in place, I want to show you 2 more ways to save you time, whilst also making your drawings clearer, richer, and more persuasive for your clients. We'll start with how you can use AI to unlock more value from your landscape layouts and drawings in just a few clicks. Rayon's AI panel will help you design, visualize, and refine your projects faster than ever before. From generating axonometric drawings to creating custom CAD blocks, producing realistic 3D renders, and even replacing furniture or materials, you can try endless prompts that will save you hours and unlock those new creative possibilities. This is extremely powerful, especially during the initial design phase when you want to present your clients with various options before fully committing and diving into those shop drawings for execution. Let's explore how we can bring a new floor plan to life by creating a 3D axonometric view and applying our mood board material choices with just a few prompts. Okay, so now let's check out the AI chat. So I've created a new thread and I'll go into tools. And first of all, we'll do generate an axonometric. So that's create an axonometric view from the scene's floor plan or section. So we'll click on here and then we need to prompt it with something. So we'll give it a screenshot of our landscape plan. So that will be then reading that as the prompt. It will follow its own internal instructions to generate an axonometric. And here it is. So you can see there it's taken an understanding of the site, given it a representation in 3D, and we can insert that. So one thing I like to do is remove the background. So I can go to edit with AI, which is down here, and I can remove background. You'll see there, it'll just take a second. I'll say done. And that's really good because then I can start overlaying it with different elements and it seems to work really, really well. The other thing I can do is reuse that image. So if I go right click on this and then say reference in chat, that then places it within the AI chat. And I can do something else like stylize it. So why don't we try a watercolor style? So this will take that information from the Axo and add a predefined watercolor style to that. There you go, wow, look at that. Yeah, I mean, that gives a really, nice, soft first impression, if you're creating a sort of feasibility study or, something early on to give it an idea, you get the flow of the shapes and the materiality. Yeah, that's good. All that generated from that simple floor plan. Perfect. And there you go. This will make our design intent so much clearer to our clients. Now, let's see how it all comes together in the final part, setting up your client presentation. Rayon is your one-stop shop to go all the way from concept design to construction drawings and client presentations. You can use the paper canvas and the model canvas to set up your drawings and always have the most up-to-date drawing represented in your document. So let's dive in and see how to do that. Okay, so we've currently got our import canvas, which is the one where our model is. We have our detail canvas. So they all technically model canvases. I want to create a paper canvas. So I'll click on this little plus sign up here and select paper canvas. And this is really about my drawing sheets. So we'll call it paper canvas, and then we will be prompted to create a page. So over in the right-hand side, we can choose a size. So make this an A3 page, for example. I can have that as portrait or landscape, and then I can add a title sheet, for example. So title sheet is a type of block. So we'll go over to blocks, we'll go to our block library, and then we'll scroll down to title blocks annotations. And then I can easily just drag in an A3 title block, and it sits there like that. Perfect. I could then go in and copy these. So I can copy 1, 2, 3, say, and I can copy the title sheet as well. I can go in and I can edit these. So you can see on the right hand side that I can add or I can input into these instance properties. So I can add things like the name, the project name, the scale, all of those elements that I would normally have on a title sheet. But the most helpful thing is to start adding the views. So over on the left-hand side, we've got layers. So we'll go to a view, which is down here, and I'll get a view from the import canvas. So this is where my 2D plan is and where my axos are. So I can start positioning this. I can set a scale. So on the right-hand side, I could set this to 1:200, for example, which seems like a good scale. I can crop, so I just drag in these viewfinder boundary, and it really is as if you're taking a view down onto the model canvas. So that's our model view, and I could copy that view, and then I could pan across to this one. Again, I could crop it, I could scale it, and I could position it like this, for example. I even have a little overlap, which I quite like. I could then add another view. So again, I could import my view from here. Again, I could scale this view here. I could make this bigger or smaller. I could even start thinking about, let's jump back to the import layer. I could have a series of material swatches, for example. Let's go into our pre-built styles. You could say one is timber decking, one is gravel, where's grass, where's flagstones. Make it sit as a palette. alongside a canvas, for example, very quickly, very easily. And then I could add my detail views. So again, I'm just going to view and then choosing the canvas. So this one's actually on detail canvas. I can set these to a certain scale. And again, I can just copy that view. Yeah, think about it like a viewport and then scroll across. Exactly the same with the last one. All very quick, all very simple, getting a few sheets together. And then if we wanted to add annotations or text, we can do that very simply. So let's pull this landscape master plan. I can go into that text. Again, I can set a style. So I can choose a size, I can choose a color, I can choose a font. And again, I can save that as title style, for example. And then wherever I use that style will stay consistent. Perfect. Now, if you're working as a team, you should know that you can work together in real time in Rayon. Here's how you can invite your teammates to your drawings. Okay, with those drawings completed, I can do a couple of things with them. So the first one I showed you is the inviting your teammates. So access, you can invite people to access your drawing so they can come in and they can edit it. So that's with an editor, or I can send it to them as a viewer. So I could add in my other email address, for example, invite, that will then send an email to me. And that allows me to come in and comment on the drawing. So I'm able to look at it, I'm able to take measurements, I'm able to add notes to the drawing, and I'm also allowed to add annotations so I can start sketching over them. All of that stays within Rayon and lives within the comments tab, which live over here. So add a comment, I can click on a certain area, for example, write a comment and say, actually changed this material to porcelain. Press post, and now my team can see that, and I will also have a record of who it was from, when it was sent, so everything stays within Rayon, which is perfect. Another game changer is sharing your presentations as a URL link instead of emailing them as a PDF. Here's how. Now, with the drawing complete, the traditional thing would be to export as a PDF. So if I wanted to do that, I would just need to go over to menu, go to export, and then PDF. And I can do all of those drawings, or I can select a certain page. I would then give it a title, select the format, so PDF or PNG, select the quality, and then decide on the stroke scale. I can do that, but it's not the most efficient way to do things. The best way in Rayon to do things is to share the presentation. And it's a really powerful feature, which I love. We could go to share and we could go to presentation. And this ultimately creates a link. So just like you would have a PDF, you'd upload it to a file transfer website, send the link, and then get your clients to download it from the file transfer website. This does all of that in one click. So we'll publish the presentation. So I'll just click on that little toggle there and it gives me a link. So I can copy that, or I can open it and let's take a look. So you can see here, there's my drawings all looking great on our sheet. I can scroll through those. We've got our master plan with the watercolor finish, with our material ideas, and then our details with our technical sections. All of that sitting on this URL link. The really, really great thing is, say for example, I did go in and I got rid of that material because my boss didn't like it. And I go, oh right, now I need to update the presentation and resend it to the client. Well, if we go to share again, Rayon will see that presentation needs to be updated. So it will give you that little update symbol. Once you click it, that then gets published to that same URL. So it's not a different link. So the client doesn't need to have hundreds of different links to try and keep up with it. It's that same link and it's just been updated. So let's check that now. So you can see here, that's now been updated. So everything stays up to date because you've kept it within Rayon. Perfect. And that's the complete workflow, from importing a technical DWG to delivering a rich, stylized landscape presentation that clearly communicates your design intent. By combining our ready-made CAD block library, a curated material library, reusable templates and AI tools, you're not just saving time, you're building a system that makes every future project faster and more refined. Create a free Rayon account using the link below to access the same assets and start building your own plug-and-play library. Thanks so much for following along, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.